In 1890, Hopkins is feeling very guilty for delivering a message to the 7th Cavalry Regiment, allowing the Wounded Knee massacre of Lakota Sioux. The Lakota Sioux were already prisoners with the U.S. Army, and because of Hopkins' message from the general, they were killed beforehand to prevent a rebellion. When Hopkins heard the gunfire and went back to camp, he found that all the Lakota Sioux had been killed. While working as a stunt rider in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, Hopkins and his horse are promoted as the best horse and rider duo in the world. Preston Webb, a fellow competitor, claims that Mustangs do not belong with high-quality horses and are only good for fertilizing the soil. Hopkins interprets an unsuccessful plea from another entertainer, Chief Eagle Horn, for Bill to assist in rescuing his tribe's wild horses that have been captured by the authorities to be destroyed. The government had set a value on the wild horses, but the Native Americans lack the funds to rescue them. Bill remarks that the wild horses have fulfilled their use, and there is no reason to salvage them. In 1891, Sheikh Riyad, a rich man, directs his assistant Aziz to ask American Frank Hopkins and his Mustang, Hidalgo, to join the Ocean of Fire, a yearly 3,000-mile endurance race through the Najd Desert region, spanning the Persian Gulf, Iraq, and the dunes of Syria and Damascus. This race, usually open only to purebred Arabian horses, has been organized for a millennium, with the world's best 100 horses taking part. Majority of the riders fail to complete even half the race, and the previous year saw the tragic deaths of 40 participants. The Sheikh oversees the Al-Kamsa lineage, known as the finest long-distance horses globally. Aziz requests that the show refrain from using that description or permit Hopkins and Hidalgo to join the competition and demonstrate their abilities. Aziz mentions that Hidalgo has only triumphed in races in America, where he remains undefeated, which hardly counts as a desert. Aziz points out that Hidalgo has not yet been challenged by the most exceptional endurance horses worldwide. Chief Eagle Horn informs Hopkins that the prime times for the Native Americans are over, and they will continue their lives as they are, but the race provides an opportunity for Hopkins to achieve greatness. Hopkins acknowledges that Hidalgo is no longer the horse he once was. The chief suggests that Hopkins is confused as he does not fully belong to either the Native American or white communities and must discover his true identity. To assist Hopkins, his fellow performers from the show collect the $1,000 entry fee to be paid in Spanish silver. In the Ocean of Fire competition, an American cowboy and his Mustang face off against the top Arabian horses and Bedouin riders in the world. Some of these riders are determined to stop a foreigner, especially one with a non-pure horse, from finishing the race. For Hopkins, the Ocean of Fire challenge is not just about pride and honor. It becomes a race for his survival as he and his horse take on the incredibly difficult desert crossing. His goal is to use the prize money to rescue the Mustangs. These horses were crucial to the Native Americans, who trained and relied on them. However, the U.S. government was attempting to eradicate them to compel the Native Americans to become farmers. The prize for the winner of the race exceeds $100,000. During the race, competitors attempt to harm Hopkins and Hidalgo. The main foes include Lady and Davenport, a wealthy and pampered British aristocrat who possesses a rival Arabian horse and is accustomed to having her desires fulfilled, and is married to Major Davenport, played by Malcolm McDowell. Another opponent is Katib, the Sheikh's nephew, who goes against his uncle's wishes by aiming to marry his cousin, the Sheikh's daughter Jazaira, and take over control of the Sheikh's stables, including El Hadal. Sheikh Riyad, who admires the Wild West, has pledged his daughter Jazaira to be the 5th wife of Prince bin al-Ri if he emerges victorious riding the Sheikh's horse El Hadal. Jazaira is a spirited young woman and an accomplished horse rider herself. Jaffa serves as Jazaira's private protector. Sheikh Riyad used to have 5 sons, but tragically, 3 of them perished in the raids, 1 was taken by the race, and the final one was claimed by the treacherous sands of Hamad. Additionally, the Sheikh makes a side bet with Hopkins, offering an additional $10,000 on top of the race's prize money for his Colt pistol. Yusef, who used to herd goats for the Sheikh, found himself in trouble for stealing. As punishment, he had to choose between losing his hand or assisting Hopkins as his guide throughout the race. Yusef advises Hopkins to consider dropping out of the competition, and declares that if her mare Camria emerges victorious in the race, she will secure the permission to breed with Al-Hadal. In case of her mare's defeat, she agrees to hand over 40% of the prize money to the sheik. The competition permits riders to journey from dawn until dusk, pausing for a complete day of rest at the midpoint in Rub al-Khali. Riders who lose their horses are forbidden from receiving any rescue assistance. A common thread throughout the movie is that Hopkins' father was of European-American descent, while his mother belonged to the Lakota tribe of Native Americans. The Lakota refer to him as Blue Child, or Far Rider. Being of mixed heritage, he holds deep compassion and sorrow for his mother's tribe, who are facing annihilation at the hands of the settlers. Despite this, he usually keeps his ancestry hidden, especially following the tragic events of the Wounded Knee Massacre, which he partially blames himself for. A rival competitor named Soccer pays off a group of soldiers stationed along the path to deny water to Hopkins and Hidalgo, leading Hopkins to have to struggle for access to water and keep going in the race. Later, he must flee from a sandstorm by seeking refuge in a deserted fortress. As the journey progresses, they reach the midpoint of the race, where the sheik, along with his companions and Jazeera, have also arrived. Among the participants, 39 riders have perished and 11 are missing due to the sandstorm. With a strong determination to forge her own path, Jazeera offers Hopkins guidance on how to endure the desert, even providing him with dates and camel butter for the next part of the race. She reveals that if the prince emerges victorious in the competition, she would become his fifth wife, leading to the end of her freedom. However, their presence together in his tent at the midpoint is discovered. The sheik plans to punish Hopkins by castrating him, but his exiled nephew Kadib attacks the camp in an attempt to force a marriage with Jazeera through dishonoring her. In the chaos, the prince escapes on Al-Hadal, while Kadib abducts Jazeera. Hopkins saves Jazeera, and as they make their way back to the camp, he confides in her about his Lakota Sioux heritage, which intensifies his remorse over what happened at Wounded Knee. Jazeera draws a parallel between his connection to his roots and her choice not to wear a veil, telling him that he shouldn't spend your life concealing who you are, just like me. Davenport tries to bribe Hopkins to quit the race, but he refuses. Little does Hopkins know, Davenport is working with Kadib to scheme against Hidalgo and steal Al-Hadal. Their plan is for Davenport's mare to win the race and mate with the sheik's horse. After rescuing his competitor Soccer from sinking in quicksand, Hopkins is ambushed by Kadib and falls into a trap, causing severe harm to Hidalgo. Soccer, a fellow racer and falconer, comes to his rescue. Soccer gets shot, and Hopkins takes down Kadib. Hidalgo collapses, and Hopkins contemplates putting him down out of mercy. However, as he recites a prayer to Wakantanka, a vision of Lakota elders and his mother appears before him. The prince teases Hopkins as the race nears its conclusion, with Hidalgo struggling to stay on his feet. Riding without a saddle, Hopkins makes a remarkable comeback, overtaking Davenport's mare and the prince to win the competition. He forms a bond with the sheik and says goodbye to Jazeera, who now calls him Blue Child, his Lakota name. When he returns to the U.S., Hopkins uses his prize money to purchase Mustangs from the government, setting them free in the wild alongside Hidalgo. In a later section, it is mentioned that Hopkins went on to win around 400 long-distance races and continued to advocate for the preservation of wild Mustangs until his passing in 1951. Meanwhile, Hidalgo's descendants roam freely in the untouched lands of Oklahoma. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.